Hi, I'm Ian, and in case you missed the first video, let me bring you up to speed. I am trying to develop a fixed camera survival horror game in the style of classic Resident Evil. In the last devlog we went over the basics of what I'd done so far, and the how and why of getting here. This time around, things are going to be a little bit different. It's not going to be a play-by-play of every decision made, but more like a three-part episode where we talk about the general news and updates around the project, show off the specific progress that's been made in the interim, and talk about the technical details of that progress for those interested in the nerdy details. Firstly, I apologise for the delay in this devlog coming out. The stuff I've been working on here took about 3 weeks, but before that I had about 3 weeks of trying out a project which didn't end up making it into production, unfortunately, and then some paying contract work, which was good. Then, having done all the development to prepare for this video, I came down with the flu, which delayed progress on the devlog by another few days. I apologise again for that delay. The big bit of news is that I'm no longer working alone on this, as my longtime friend Robert, perhaps better known by his online username IamNero, has joined the development team following his finishing up at university. He's been working with Unity for the past few years, so a portion of the past few weeks have been spent getting him refamiliarised with Unreal Engine and used to using the version control system, Git, and generally doing all the bits of setup and infrastructure that comes with introducing someone to 6 months of insane computerised ramblings. I'm still in the middle of writing up some documentation about the infrastructure and general best practices that I've been following. However, once we'd got everything set up, he started making a great deal of progress greyboxing the second area of the game, the storage bay. This is something that I'd been struggling on since before I made the first devlog, and seeing progress finally start being made on it was super exciting. It's all still grey boxes, but we've come up with a strong objective for the area, and we've had a complete overhaul of the discussion around core mechanics. Of course, I would never tell Rob this, but since he's come on board, I have become a lot more confident in this game actually being fun to play, which currently it isn't. As this had gone from a hypothetical game in my head to a list of real features I would have to program and model, I'd become quite wary of scope creep. Fortunately, Robert hasn't yet succumbed to this, and instead pointed out that there needs to be more to do, and that puzzle mechanics is not specific enough as a design. So we've put together a plan, and both intend to start implementing more of that gameplay over the next little while. Personally, I've been working on setting up controller input, which uses Steam input for compatibility and mapping. As you can see here, this also allows us to get controller-specific input prompts, even if the player has used the Steam input system to rebind their controls. I know this doesn't seem like a great deal to have spent 2 to 3 weeks on, but in the second half of this video we will go over the details of the code, and if you're interested in seeing 500 lines of deranged C++, hopefully you'll see why it took so long. However, before we get into the details of it, I'd just like to show off a few things. First of all, you can see here the input prompt system working, and so you can see that it's not hard-coded, see it working on multiple different inputs in the terminals. This UI is going to be redesigned to look less crunchy and shit, but I've not yet got around to that. I've also redesigned the main menu and pause menu. They're a bit more reusable and built from components more than hard-coded now. This does mean that it can be a bit convoluted to debug things on account of the additional layers of abstraction, but I think in the long run it should save me the hassle of re-implementing the same menus repeatedly. It has also standardised the look for a nice clean monochrome look with a consistent font, plus added some simple animations which give the entire thing a nicely polished look, if I do say so myself. Here's the final super exciting thing. Station 77 runs on a Steam Deck. The finalised input system, though working on PC, doesn't seem to work here, so I need to troubleshoot that. But if I map the Steam buttons to their corresponding Xbox controller mappings, and accept that it doesn't actually fetch the input prompts for some reason, you can see it working. Yeah, I really do need to optimise this. Nevertheless, it's a step closer. Also, as part of this, we've switched Unreal's target renderer from DirectX to Vulkan for better cross-platform compatibility. The next things that I'm going to be working on are redesigning the terminal interfaces and inventory menu, which will conclude the UI redesign, and then the finalisation of design of puzzle mechanics and actually starting to implement them. This will include things like environment interactivity, so pushing and pulling boxes, and changing the power routing in certain wings of the ship. Finally, we're getting some assets made by a friend of ours. She's excellent, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what she comes up with. The asset work is the thing that's been stopping me from putting up a Steam page, as Steam pages need all these in-game screenshots and ideally a trailer, and while I'm sure this state of things is decent for my own skill set, I don't think that this is an acceptable visual fidelity for a published game, even a demo. I don't mind if some things look like this, especially smaller background assets, but we've still got too many grey boxes and not enough stuff. I also, at some point, need to take a look at the walls, because they're just not quite right yet either. I think there's something about the light maps or the UV maps or something like that, they just don't look right. But having gone over all of that, if you're not interested in the technicals of the Steam input, then you are free to leave. I don't know when the Steam page will be coming up. I am going to stop trying to set deadlines on it because it's just not happening yet. However, I spent 2 weeks writing this system, so I will be talking about how it works. If you're interested in how these things are built, get comfy. First and foremost, this is a separate class to the usual Steamworks stuff. It's actually derived from the character class preset, which, before making any customizations, I reparented the player to. Having seen it successfully recompile, I started implementing changes. This wasn't actually the full order it went down, as I demonstrated it registering buttons in the usual Steamworks class, but if I'd left it in there, I'd have had to somehow route the callbacks through the Steamworks class into the player class, so I figured it'd be less convoluted and more computationally efficient to just plug that stuff directly into the player controller. As part of all this, I had to create an IGA, in-game actions file, a Steam-specific file in their own JSON-like VDF file format, which declares all the different game verbs that can be triggered. Part of this is defining game layers. For instance, I've defined a gameplay layer and a user interface layer. I can then use the Steam controller rebinding panel to bind each of these to use the correct button on the controller. You will be able to change these too, so if you don't like the layout that I've got, you can just change it to something that you like more. Back in the C++, there's quite a lot of getters and setters for things like setting controller RGB color, activating rumbles, switching layers, querying current layers, things like that. Almost all of these are exposed to blueprints and can therefore be called at any point from basically anywhere. The important part is here at the top in the method processInpo. This is a callback which is first registered on begin play. It's actually one of the last things called as part of the initial game setup. This is in order to avoid a race condition in which sometimes it would try and set up the controller handle before everything was registered and working, and on those occasions it would just crash. Once the callback has been registered, anytime a button is pressed on a controller, it triggers this function. The slightly funny thing about this is that it doesn't bind callbacks for individual actions, instead passing just some data about the button that's been pressed as a parameter to one method, so I then have to route that data into a 235 line long switch statement which pings off the correct blueprint event, which then routes into the existing code. This also triggers both a down and up event, so I was getting double keystrokes. So I feed through an enumeration of the button state as a parameter which stops it triggering on the button up as well. This enumeration actually has three states, down, held, and up. Inside the tick method, I query the state of the movement buttons, and if any of them are down, send through with a button held. This is done because the enhanced input action system that Unreal implemented with Unreal 5 is designed with these concepts in mind, and so the game logic was built to work with these kinds of repeated triggers and down-up events. This probably isn't the absolutely most efficient way to build this kind of system, but I think it's good enough for this. And that's what I've been working on for the past little while. The level work that Robert has been doing is excellent. I'm really looking forward to seeing that start to come together. We're still waiting to hear back from our asset person, but these are all at least ticking over. We've each got work to be doing, and we are going to continue to work incredibly hard on this. I am very hopeful about the future of this project at the moment. If you enjoyed this video, thank you for watching. If you didn't enjoy this video, thank you for watching. I'm sorry you didn't enjoy it. Please like and subscribe. I want to issue a thank you to Carlos E. Thank you, Carlos, for your support. You have been sending me money. If you didn't mean to set up a repeating payment, please, cancel it, because I've received more than one payment from you. But if that was intentional, thank you very much. I didn't script this last bit, I just wung it. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna go now, I have work to do. Bye bye.